I'm trying to say, is this project that you have in Nigeria, is it directly linked to the veteran project that you have in the US, or is actually one leading to the other, or they are both working hand by hand?
They're actually both standalone projects. They work on different entities. Here in the US, I work on a lot of veteran projects, but it's easy to tap into resources. There are resources to tap into. Sometimes it's just a matter of a phone call to say, hey, I have 12 military spouses and I need this. And I get it. And all I have to do is make sure that it's delivered. But in Nigeria, it's a totally different thing. I'm that resource. I'm that money bank. I'm that, provider. I'm that logistics person. So they're two different entities. They're standalone.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. Now, you are a community advocate and a global goodwill ambassador. Of course, this just explains both of them, which is both the veteran service in the US and your project in Nigeria, no? Which is global in this sense. Now, what has been your most challenging moment in handling these two projects? Because you are a human being, you do have your personal issue, you have a family, you have a son. But to run this one is not even an easy thing. And now you then have also other project that you are running. So I want to believe that there are some challenging moments for you. Can you please share with us?
There are challenging moments, but honestly, I would tell you that I'm probably one of the fortunate ones. And I say that because in my work in Nigeria a lot, I'm not on ground, but believe it or not, I actually have my mom and my brother who will travel because they're more flexible than me. Once I have my initiative set up and I'm ready to launch, for instance, the back to school initiative, they will be on the ground and they're my eyes and ears there to actually make that distribution because I'm not able to be so. So I might be one of the fortunate ones because I have a circle of support. But I would say in general, one of the biggest things you run into, the biggest issue is that support on ground because you're not able to be there sometimes. And you need to have people that are trusted to do the work on ground. It's so easy for you to say, I want to do the initiative. This is what's going to be done for you to get the resources, for the resources to get there and not get to the hands that it's supposed to. We all know that that's not a fib. That's just unfortunately the fact of life. So I think that's one of the biggest challenges. When you have an initiative and you have a plan and you have the plan together and it's okay. Now, how do we make sure this gets into the right hands? If you don't have trusted people on ground, unfortunately, that kind of makes it a little difficult because unfortunately, there are people who will raise up their hands to say they want to help, but it's actually to benefit themselves.
Unfortunately, of course, we are both Nigeria. We understand where we are coming from. But now, just to put it a little bit, don't you think that sort of discourage people of goodwill who really would have liked to help, but they realize that in their attempt to help, they don't have the possibility to really get to the right people that need their help. So they are, whether it is their money or whatever, their resources, they throw it out, but the people that grab it, they don't deliver it to the right people. Don't you think
Oh,
that sort of discourage?
not only does it discourage, it actually, unfortunately, might do the opposite to someone else, which is stop them from ever wanting to participate in something like this. I have a story of a friend recently in Togo who was defrauded out of is it 2 million? I forget what their currency is. Based on trust, based on saying, "Hey, I want to work in this initiative," and transferred money to someone who they believed on that end would do it. And of course, once the money was transferred, the person disappeared. So how likely is it for someone like that to ever want to participate in an initiative again? Would I blame them for not wanting to participate? Because this was actually borrowed money that they now have to pay back. So it puts a bitter pill in people's mouth. And unfortunately, the people who suffer are the people who need it the most. Like I try to explain to this person, unfortunately now there are hundreds of people who could have benefited from this who are not. So it's really a toss up. You're taking a chance, but I think it's a chance that has to be taken. There is no other option.
Much for that. Thank you also for the confidence, and also because, like I was saying before, it is difficult to be able to build trust after what has happened among us. But if we don't manage to build trust, we are not going to survive in the world that we are in. So thanks for people like you that say manage to believe in the possibility of having trust and lending a hand of fellowship to other people. Now, okay, in the part of Nigeria, you have explained what you do, but in the veteran service in the US, you haven't explained exactly in practical terms. So, in that, I'm going to ask you, in a more practical term, how do you engage with the people within your neighborhood and beyond? I mean, what do you really do in practical terms in your service in the US? Okay, looking at your veteran services.
So in my military community now, my biggest project that I work on now is, and it's actually if you go on my LinkedIn, it's I'm connected to a network called the Rosie Network. With the Rosie Network, we actually train, and coach military spouses to become business owners. So all you need is a business idea. Hey, I want to sell candles, and we take that idea and actually develop it into a full blown business of your own, where you get to develop a website, we help you market your stuff, get you on social media. So then we've now taken one spouse who maybe was a stay-at-home wife and mom and made her into a business person and entrepreneur, and she's making money for herself, he or she. That's where my big focus is on right now in the military community.
Thank you so much for that. Now, in the course of your activism and voluntary work, because this is important for me, in that I'm trying to see what lesson that you have learned, no? Because life is a lesson. I think it was Wale Adelunga production that was saying something like, life is a lesson. The more we live, the more we learn. I think that is a very powerful thing. So, in the course of your activism and voluntary work, what lesson would you say you have learned over the years?
I think the most important lesson is that regardless of where you are, I mean, I have a lot of wants and needs, but I'm actually very fortunate. And I might not have everything I want, but there are people who would actually probably trade everything they have to have what I have. So, with that in mind, it tells me that there's a lot of less fortunate people out there. And if I can, in fact, turn around and do one thing to make their life better, then it's not a matter of an option. Then I have to. It could be that there's a woman in a village somewhere who maybe just a sewing machine is gonna change her whole life because she knows how to sew, but she doesn't have the equipment. Or like I said, kids who need to go to school but don't have the equipment. So I think the lesson is that we're blessed, we're fortunate, but we can't stop there. You have to turn around and realize that there are millions of people less fortunate than you, and you must do something to make at least one life better.
Thank you so much, dear Grace. I really appreciate the time. Now, this is the last question. Then I'm going to ask for a reflection from you because we've discussed a lot of things. Now, to our fellow Nigerian in the diaspora out there, whether in the US, Canada, UK, or in other part of the world, because actually we are millions all over the places now. What kind of message would you leave to them within the line of activism? Because this is what we have talked about up until this time. No, you went to military service, which we can actually consider also as a service. Actually, it's called a service, no, to the community because you defend the people. Now you are out, you are continuously in service, reaching out even to Nigeria. So, what kind of a message would you want to leave to fellow Nigerians, fellow Africans out there in terms of giving back, in terms of service, in terms of lending a hand of fellowship to their fellow compatriots?
So of course my message is gonna be, hey, what if when I meet anyone, what are you doing? You know, how are you giving back to your community? But I think what one has to understand is for a lot of Africans in diaspora, which this is a fact, they are burdened with the responsibility of taking care of family back home. You know, I think there was a survey recently that said, I think the most family support money come from diaspora was it $2 billion. You know, people are sending money back home to their families. They're feeding people back home. They're sending their nieces and nephews to school. So they're already burdened with that in general. So for you to go to someone like that and say, hey, I know you're doing a lot already, but can you consider doing this? sometimes it's tough, it's difficult, and I understand. But what Africans in diaspora have to understand is that I think if you look back into history, and I do this every day, we're actually that generation that's meant to change things. Because if we don't change things now, when are things going to change? Like I said, I have a 5-year-old son, and I look at him and I feel like the ownership and the burden, the responsibility is on me to make sure that when he's an adult, they're not going through a lot of things that we're going through now. Things must have gotten better. Like Nigeria must have had a turnaround. The security of young African Americans, especially males in this country, cannot be an issue by the time my 5-year-old is 18. So I think we're that generation of we have the tools. We're in that time frame where we just have to make that change, and it's going to take a lot of sacrifices. It's going to take a whole lot of sacrifices. But we can't be selfish. Trust me, I want to sit back, relax, just travel, spend money on other things. But I think we're in a critical time to where if we don't make that change now, we're not setting our younger children up for success. And I am determined to do everything possible to make sure that they are set up for success because they deserve to live that life of success. And unfortunately, I think we're just that generation of sacrifice. And there's people in the past that sacrificed a whole lot more for us to even be able to be here. So why will we not do our part? That's the way that I see things every day.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right, this is the last part of it. Now we have talked about a lot of very many important things now relating to us as a people. And your last message has been really very powerful. If I have not prepared this one, I would have ended the podcast with that. But anyway, I'm still going to ask you in that have you considered all what we have said up till now? What would be your final reflection? Because it has been about connection, it has been about activism, it has been about giving back. And the message has been very clear, particularly on your part, in what you do. Of course, this is obvious in what you are, no? So what would be your final reflection, your final word to conclude the podcast? Please go ahead.
I think my final reflections, and this will be to all Africans in general, really all people, but we're focused on Africans. And that's whether you're in diaspora or you're back home, because there's a lot of money in Africa back home as well. So I think my final reflection would be you need to take a good look at yourself and examine your life. What blessings have been bestowed upon you that maybe you don't even deserve. Where are you in life? And what can you give back? And sincerely, I say it again, if only every African can be determined to change, even if it's just one life, to say, you know what, the ownership of this life being better and being successful is on me. Just imagine how many millions, billions of us there is. So if each one of us there's in a position to can just change one life, how much greater Africa in a whole would be. And then not to speak of people who can actually change 10, 20, 100, or 1,000. So I think there's work to be done, and we all have to reflect on what is the one thing, no matter how small it is. Like I said, it might be just one child that you sponsor to school. It might be one single mom that you equip with business opportunities to be able to be an entrepreneur. It might be a farmer that you could collaborate with to say, hey, how can we get you farm equipment? Remember orphans, widows. There's so much. The opportunities and the avenues to help or to impact a life are endless. So what is the one thing that you can do to make a difference in someone's life?